Hi, and welcome back. I'm Paige Elizabeth, and this is Creating Consciousness, and I have Rae Indigo again. This time, we are diving into a different topic, even though she's an amazing natural skincare chemist, right?
Yeah, biochemist. I make fresh, organic, all natural skincare.
Yeah. But we both have very similar parallel backgrounds in terms of our experience with the yoga community, and that's kind of what we want to talk about today is the unfortunate changes that have happened as a result of just time and I think, messages being hijacked and repackaged and repurposed and completely losing their essence. And because I started Ashtanga yoga at 16, and that was 1998. That was before yoga pants were even a thing. So,
Yeah, I remember doing the Ashtanga sequence and people were basically wearing their underwear. No one was cool. No one was had an outfit. You had like the mats were not nice. It was it was a different purpose. Oh my gosh. So I am so excited for today's podcast because this is a subject that like is so near and dear to my heart. This whole week I've been thinking about it a lot. So decide wherever you want to dive in. I love this pond.
well, you know, one thing that I I had a conversation with Prem Carlesi, who is kind of one of the old original Ashtanga yoga practitioners. And, he said that the practice was designed for cultivating freedom. It was for outliers to kind of go and have that spiritual experience. And now it's turned into conformity and religion. And I completely agree because that's part of the reason that I walked away. I didn't need to walk away completely from the practice when I did. My own practice kind of hit this point where it's like, well, I finished fourth series. Where do you go from here?
I hit the same wall. I hit the exact same wall. Yep.
You know, and
And then what?
yeah, and it's not like I wanted to do fifth. No, that was ridiculous. So it's not like that, right? So fourth is not even a place to reside. It's a
No,
place
you don't
to sit.
stay there.
Yeah. Um, but I didn't need to completely abandon things, and I probably would have kept a more of a relationship to the teaching and the community, but the mindset, the collective mindset, because mind you, I left right around after during COVID. And so there
Oh,
was
you stuck a
that,
long time.
yeah, so there was this, how dare you not stay home and stay safe and you must wear a mask. And so, like, again, just this idea of conformity on steroids. And if you pushed back even a little bit, you were just shunned for it. And
Oh, I remember. This is when I kind of went like this to the yoga world. Also, I was touring then, like before COVID, I had a big career and it stopped. And then everyone got insane. And I said, wait a second. This is not how a yogi should be responding to something like this. Like this response, the fear, the conformity, the shame, all the negative emotion, bullying, all the
right,
bullying. And I don't respond well to bullying. Um, and so I was blown away and it changed the taste. I mean, I'd seen this degradation of the true spirit, this inner nature that I see in yoga. That there's something that should shine bright in a yogi. And I saw that becoming dimmer and dimmer and dimmer. And it was, I always think like tastes like ash in my mouth. And then when COVID happened, it was like, soot, what is this? No, the sweetness is gone. And now I do my own practice and just teach kind of privately the deeper stuff. But the so what happened in COVID caused a break with me to so many people that I'd worked with and thought were, brave, bold, intelligent people. And I don't like to, I don't want to be insulting, but it was so disappointing. I just stepped back. I just was like, this is not fixable. This response. Yeah. I mean, I can.
well, I remember because for me it started just before COVID, where I was assaulted, I was in litigation, and here I am raised Mormon by like Utah pioneers. And I'm like, that's it. I'm gonna start using guns and I'm gonna learn to protect myself. And that started the alienation.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. They never liked me for my love of weapons either.
Yeah, like how dare you? And the shaming that I got, and it's like you're shaming me for protecting myself or wanting to protect myself. And I'll never forget there was this woman who followed me. She was from, I think, Middle Europe. And she commented, and all she did was list all the horrible things about me on my post. And I
Wow.
responded and I said, you forgot to mention that I'm not a vegan too. Don't forget that one. Like, you know, this is your definition of a yogi?
Well, they
It's like,
misunderstood
okay.
they misunderstood the translation of the word ahimsa because
Oh,
when
totally.
they've misunderstood what the they've just totally misunderstood the application because they took it and they said, how do I want this to work for me so I can feel superior to others? And that's a really simplistic way to apply ahimsa because it has nothing to do with the actual spirit or the merit of it, which is what does it mean to not harm? And this is not a set of rules. It's an intricate relationship to each situation where you're looking to have an improved outcome. And sometimes the improved outcome is not pleasant for people who are doing bad things. And that was one of the hardest things that I came across in the yoga community, which happened to me in like 2014. There was a predators in the community and that's a lot. I've done podcasts on that and got rid of them. Yeah, and people were very angry that someone would stand, but I have proper boundaries and I know what is incorrect action. And and I saw them preying and bullying on other people. And the thing that just killed me, like this was a real wake-up call because I'd kind of been a bit of an ashrami kind of person and hadn't really been out teaching or in public. And it was, they said this about this woman who was being attacked by this one person. I don't want to go into the details. And they said, well, it must be her karma. And I was just like, so if there's a little old lady walking down the street and some guy starts attacking her and robbing her, it must be her karma, right? Like,
This is also why I don't subscribe to Vedic astrology. And I recently was given an incredibly good dissection between the two of them,
I
and it
would love
makes
to hear
sense.
this.
So I saw a video on TikTok and I'm like, that is fascinating. Pulled up Chat GPT and I said, break down the differences. So Vedic is based on the actual degrees of the stars. Like it's like the math is where they're exactly pointed, but it's based on the stars. Western is based on the sun and the sun in relationship to the earth. So the calculations are based, that's why your birth chart is like, where were you born and all that. And it's in calculation to that. And it follows the equinoxes. So it's not based on the literal spot of the stars because we don't follow that. We follow the sun's path or, in relation to the earth and, like I said, the equinoxes and stuff like that. So it made more sense. I was like, so neither one is wrong
No,
because,
they're their own systems. They have a different purpose, though.
yeah, Vedic really likes to put down Western and be like, no, we're superior. It's like, no, you're just a different way of coming to a conclusion. But I've never left a Vedic reading not wanting to kill myself. Like they're so depressing and fatalistic and like, oh, you need to wear like 1,000 gemstones to counteract your karma and do these mantras. And I'm like, that just sounds like misery. Whereas it's so, like I said, it's so fated. There's no free will involved. It's
Yeah,
completely deterministic.
it's external. It's externalized presentations without,
100%.
and they've lost the fact that it's the intention, the frequency, the vibration that makes any positive change. It's not that the amulet might work as a prop, but if you don't have the thing behind it, and you don't need the amulet. And I agree. That's a good way to put it.
Whereas the tropical I love, and I've really found it to be so much more accurate for me, but it's more opportunistic and it's more based on personality and psychology. It's not like fated. It's not like, oh, you stepped on a snake in your last life, therefore you're going to get bit by one in this life. It's not like that. And so I feel like the system also, I never got on board with it. I do appreciate Ayurvedic medicine to an extent. I can appreciate understanding the doshas, and it's helped me as a yoga teacher to really know what to do with a student once I knew their doshas. But in terms of like the whole thing, I have my reservations, and I
They're all
started
systems.
this, but I like yeah, I'm
They're
anyway.
they're 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 all systems, and they have specific uses. The problem I think happens when someone becomes like religiously attached to one system. Like everything has to be solved by Ayurveda is great for instance, eye health.
Mhm.
There's some wonderful things that you do daily to improve vision, but it's not going to do everything. And so if you become really religious, like it has to be this solution, you miss out on a whole lot of better solutions. And it's actually not that viewpoint is not really yogic because yoga is not a fixed system. It's not like done and then we apply it. It's a living system. And so if you understand like the Ayurvedic principle of how to regenerate life, how to make life become more like the upward spiral, this is super useful. But what molecules you use to create that or what practices you use to create that, they're going to be different now than they were couple hundred years ago. And also we have access to a lot more ingredients, a lot more processes. So it should change. And the problem is when people, I mean, for me, I think the problem is when they look to the past as if that information is so much better than what we have now. And in some ways, it might be more pure. But what happens is when you take the truth of that and you bring it to modern times, you keep the same, how would I say, integrity of it. But now you have a lot more options for how to apply the principles of Ayurveda. And that to me is living yoga. Like, hey, the rose oil we can get, which is used in different Ayurvedic preps, is very different from the quality that you could get back then. So right there, now we have a different outcome. And I'm using a simple example, but does that make sense?
No, absolutely. And I I think about like some of the yoga men I dated, and oh my,
They're the worst.
they're the worst. They're the worst. I had one ex-boyfriend that was like, I wonder if I drink my urine. And I'm just like, some of these things that these sages did, I think they were bored. Can we not quit pedestaling these practices as though they're somehow like gonna create enlightenment? Because spare me.
Husband's
You're gonna
cracking
drink
up
your
in the
own urine.
background.
Spare
No,
me.
the ones I love when they meditate on the middle of the path. Like you got to be seen when you're meditating. That one cracks me up. The pee drinking one, I know many people that love that, and it's just not my personal practice. Bless their hearts. And I remember when there was a trend. So I've been in the yoga. I grew up in the yoga world, and I remember being like 19 at some party in Hawaii, and the trend was then basically where they're doing brahmacharya practices to suspend their ejaculate. So some other yoga guy, I shit you not, at this party, he goes into plow pose. You know where I'm going with this? He goes into plow pose and he tries to demonstrate a practice of brahmacharya where he recycles his own ejaculate. I saw that. I was like, that what is that? And I was like, I can't believe this is happening. These extreme things. And to what purpose? And then they really think they won an award of being spiritual. Aside from the fact that it's rather uncomfortable to have to witness that in public. I mean, I guess I could have averted my eyes, but it's like a
Well,
train wreck.
even for me, right? Like I finished fourth series, and I'm very honest. Like fourth is for the board overachiever. I didn't get a better view because I did fourth than I would have at third. There's nothing. It's just where do you go from here? I guess I'll keep going. But it's really for the board overachiever. It's not for the mother who has three children who has to integrate, this practice into her life. It's for someone who has nothing better to do with their time.
Exactly.
It doesn't create any more enlightenment. It just makes you go, oh, I didn't need that.
It doesn't make you a better person. Putting all your legs behind your head, or I got mine behind my back, and and then what? It doesn't make you, okay, it's cool, but that amount of attention, I was training like, 4 hours a day, sometimes like hard, like long training to get that. And And then what? And you realize it didn't make me a better person. And that when I achieved those things, because they keep saying the reason that we did this is there was a pedestal put there. And the people who could do those poses, they were given a more social power. And I was young. And I thought, oh, when I get to that, then I'll be cool. And then I got to that. And I was like, wait a second. Also, this is a waste of time. I'm not going to be an acrobat. What do I need? And that's when like really I was able to relieve myself of the need to overachieve in that area.
Well, and I get a lot of questions like, why did you stop? I don't need bone spurs. Like, this is not
No,
good for my body. Like, this isn't even good for my joints. I have a permanent subluxation issue on this right shoulder as a result of sticking my leg all the way back and holding it there. Like, I had to push the joint out of position just to do that pose. And now I'm dealing with the repercussions of that.
hip
I had a
instability.
whole interview with a woman out of China because I made a video about how it damages your reproductive system as a woman, and it does. Like pulling your legs in that external position over and over again for years is not good for the uterus. Is
It
not good.
destabilized the sacrum too. No, it causes they and the thing I stopped doing Ashtanga regularly probably 2007. So I was 27 and started to really modify and move more into martial arts stuff. But the over external rotation, I didn't realize how much I'd overdone it to restate. I am still restabilizing from too much external rotation. I have a whole sequence of like internal rotation poses that are balanced. You'd love it. That helps to stabilize that because I came to yoga with a lot of hypermobility and stabilized a lot of it, but now it's like getting the rotation to go back. I'm still working on it now. Still recovering from shenanigans.
I had to do like a whole TBM protocol for about a year with the practitioner to reset, like pull the parts back into position, like like literally get all of that working again. And that was when I was like 35, 36. But yeah, we had to like kind of restabilize all of that. And so it's not what you think, you know what I mean? It's not, it is circus, it really is.
And the thing that I've seen change is like now, first off, you don't see people that are training like that anymore, for better or worse, that because it really does take the 2 hour long practices. Like now that we're down to an hour. But the problem that I have with what I see, and I take classes all over the country when I'm traveling just to kind of see if anything's changed, is they didn't address and they're still using knockoffs of the same poses, but they're doing it super fast, like
Mm.
super fast. Like you inhale, exhale. It's just like it's constant movement. So I don't see people getting the change because aside from like if you don't overtrain to the extreme like we did in the yogic system and in yoga classes, there's a lot of great information, but I don't see it arranged in a way that's really useful and different from another workout. Like yin yoga, I really love this one for people. I'm a huge advocate that really helps them. But your regular yoga classes, there's so many better poses for modern bodies and so many better movement patterns, but they have such an attachment to like what came before. And I think it needs to be updated. I'll be in Peru. I'm teaching another course down there. I'm going to give them all updated, forms and flows that help to stabilize and actually, the main thing I see with people is tightness in the wrong place, the fascia is warped, instability, and the poses, the way they're teaching them, people can't even get into Warrior One or Warrior Two correctly. So there's great modifications for those where you're actually getting the right form and the right alignment and able to create that stability. I don't see much of that work, happening
Yeah, when
now.
I was teaching, if someone was really bendy, and this is what I hate, so like teachers will be like, "Oh, you're really bendy, let's bend you more." No, no, no,
No,
let's
exactly.
stabilize you. Like that, we don't need to bend you more. Well, you're
No.
really strong. That's nice. Let's get you to be a little bit more fluid, like because you're too stiff.
Yep.
So, and they don't do enough of that. There's not enough of that. They just play into the strengths and they don't look at like what's underneath and like what we can do to really balance the body. And
Yeah.
I didn't
Because
like that.
no, I don't like it at all. And I think it's really not good that yoga is going in this direction because your asana practice, the postures should be used to create balance, stability, and ease, like to make it more congruent and corrective, like a therapeutic practice. And and then you do other workouts. You should also weight train. You should also do some strong cardio, and then use the yoga to align everything so the other training sits on it in a balanced way. And also, I taught a lot of therapeutics, so I did a lot of people that were like treatment to injuries, and it's missing. It's missing. It's the whole philosophy of that is missing, and they're not even trained to know what to do when you have in the same class, you have someone super flexible, you have someone tight, you have someone injured. How do you sequence with all of that at once and have them all get a benefit? And that should be taught. They don't know. And it's sad because like I see a lot of like young young ladies getting into teaching yoga, and they're so sweet and well-meaning and enthusiastic, and then they just get a training and they get not enough information because 200 hours is not enough. I mean, I trained for 5 years before I started teaching. five
I
years that's
trained for a decade before I started teaching.
yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't even want to. I was still reluctant going in. I was like, okay, fine. But like, and that's just on a physical level in terms of like, it's become a fitness thing, not a spiritual practice thing. And so that's one area where,
Spiritual practice has been completely removed from it, it's, and that I think is the most interesting part of the yogic system is not the physical. The physical is just preparing the container. The way I always think of this, and this is where the West really ate yoga incorrectly, is like I invite you over for dinner, yeah, and you show up right on time and you brought some chocolates because you're a lovely guest, but I haven't cleaned the room. There's clutter here, there's newspapers here, laundry over here. So when you arrive, I'm gonna not feel good. I'm gonna have to clean while prepping, and it'll be a very inelegant moment. So what has to happen first before the guest comes to dinner is that you arrange the room. You make it clean, you make it ambient, you make it balanced, you make it harmonic. That's asana practice. Everyone got stuck cleaning the room and never got to the dinner party, which is all the higher teachings, like the rasa yoga teachings, which are really unknown. That's the mood, the yoga of mood. That saves my ass every day, girl. If I didn't have the ability to like work with my emotions quickly in real time, to recalibrate, to create positive ones,
oh, absolutely.
but it's lost. That's way more important than putting your legs behind your head. It's been lost. And so that's most of what I do. I do that online. I know you do as well, is the deeper stuff, which is way more interesting.
Right. And like the self-reflection part, like none of that is done. And what I have found, maybe you agree with this, is like people just inherently don't want to think for themselves. They want to be told what to do. And so they're going to find something and then they're going to go, okay, what are the parameters that I need to stay within? And then they just turn it into a dogma, right? And so there's no, like, whenever I had a student, they'd be like, what do you think? And I'd be like, what do you think? Like, it's your body. Like, it's your practice, right? Like, why are you giving me that much power? I'm just an instrument to help you, but I'm not going to dictate to you because it's your life and it's your path. And people don't like that. People want to be told. And so, like, and if and anytime you go outside those parameters, now you're the bad guy. And I was the bad guy because I like didn't live within the parameters. And so I was always the outlier, always the one that they wanted to hate me, but couldn't quite because I'd done the work. Like she did do the work. She's just not trying to like get the accolades from, the guy in India. So and but it's so disappointing that mindset and like the beginner mindset, they never grow out of the beginner mindset, which is the black and white thinking, right? Whereas an advanced mind is very nuanced. It understands balance. It understands that like the extremes are how you find the way. It's not the way. You know what I mean? And they get stuck there. They never actually outgrow that, like, oh no, like it's you have to practice even if you have the flu or you're a bad person. Like it's just yeah.
Yeah, so this is what I this is the deg one of the degradations I've seen happen, and I've spent a lot of time contemplating how exactly it kind of unfolded like this. And I think this is my premise, is that the main thing comes from the teacher first lost sight of what the end goal is. And the end goal is to create a free thinking, creative, balanced, kind of a superhuman. Like yoga can make you superhuman if you digest it in the right way. And they lost track of why I'm actually doing this. And they got into the fear of like, how am I going to have enough? And what I've seen is people who are working as teachers, if you're having to sell courses and all of this, and like my courses were hard. Yeah. And so why would you take the hard same price as this other person? Mine is a much more formidable course. It's hard, and they learned to do sequence design. So I didn't teach Ashtanga, I taught sequence design. So I didn't tell them how to do stuff. I would make them start designing and then teach them parameters to examine lately. And this is very uncomfortable, but I do it in a fun way. And I tell them, hey guys, the first day they started teaching practice too. So they got comfortable with a partner speaking. And the thing that I saw happen is it took something in me to want to go there because I had to make them be in an uncomfortable place. And for a teacher who doesn't, I have a very clear outcome in my mind. For a teacher who doesn't have that, the moment that they feel uncomfortable and they have to make the students uncomfortable, they start to think, well, if I make them uncomfortable, they might not buy more from me. And so then they make it easier. And then this keeps going down. It's like the trickle down. Then their students adopt the same lineage or behavior. And so at a certain point, you just become a servant to your teachers. They come and they're like, I want a certificate. You're like, okay, are you willing to try this a little bit? Kind of, so, okay, you're not, that's fine. Well, everyone is just, it's all the same. Everything is, they end up with this, everything is, and it's all okay. And it's not. And the yoga has very clear definitions, very clear outcomes. It has a scientific method in it that's amazing. And that was all lost because the fear of the teacher, the lineage holders. I remember being on a stage in Switzerland and with a bunch of other like famous, senior teachers. And before the whole event started, this was like so weird for me. Each one of us got to say something, 30 seconds or a minute on the mic, and every single person other than me took that mic and stood up there. I'm so grateful to be here, and just the same message, yeah, which was all about them being there. And this is when I realized that we're very, very different because I took that 30 seconds to explain underlying principles that would be invaluable for them. I didn't talk at all about me because I don't fucking care about me. I
Right.
care that you wake up and experience a higher place of beingness, which isn't like higher in the sense of that's low, like a different frequency of perception. And when that's a clear intention, the outcome is different and what you'll tolerate is different. And also, if someone doesn't have the attitude, and which I encourage good attitudes a lot, but if they just don't want to do the work, I would fail them. And kindly, I would explain to them, hey, I can't, if you were in my position, would you pass you? It was a conversation, but to do that, you have to be willing to lose your entire audience to do the right thing. And I think that yogis became they lost that warrior spirit because, well, if I create waves, it's not peaceful. You know what? If there's a monster in the room, getting him out, the monster's not going to like it. There's going to be some waves. And this circles
Oh,
back
yeah.
to the ahimsa. If I don't give clear boundaries, clear metrics, clear encouragement, clear response to the people I'm teaching, and I just let everything be everything, they all turn into monsters, liars, hiding behind a facade of uncertainty. And what's behind all of these teachers is they are very uncertain about what they're doing and why they're doing it. So they paint something on top of it, but that's a false thing. You have to really know, why am I teaching? Why am I practicing? Yeah. Is it just cause, what illusions do I have? The leg behind the head, I'll be a better person. Oh, I heard back bending is attached to having an open heart chakra. Because, Mother Teresa with her amazing back bends, or Martin Luther King, renowned for his chakrasana. You know what I mean? It's like these are not associated. If the body can be healthy and flexible and stable, it's a great benefit. But for some people, it's not even an option. What do you do with them? What do you have to offer?
Oh,
And
totally.
yeah. Sorry, that was a rant. It's
No,
like
it's okay. I mean, I get it. I hear you because I'm in the same mindset. Like, I often would come across teachers who would try to find a problem that didn't exist so they could feel like the authority to actually come and fix it. And it's like, no, I don't know how many times I dealt with that one where it's like, if it's, and I would tell students who were used to this, you're
you
fine.
were in You were in Ashtanga, which is a lot more. I left the Ashtanga community pretty early on because that attitude, the has I just I'm like, but why? Oh, always when you put your arms over your head, palms have to be like this. I'm like, but for those people, if you rotate this way, they can actually get the shoulder to bet. These things were
Oh, I
illegal.
know. There's no nuance. I get it.
There's
And
no, yeah.
when I would teach people, I would introduce a lot of nuance. Now, granted, like I would attract the outliers, they were happy to receive it, but it was like, if this is our goal, this way is too rigid to get you there.
Yeah.
So let's find another way to get there. I mean, Karanavasana, which like I think it's changed. I think more women are getting stronger. I literally was like one of three women in the world that could do Karanavasana. It was that hard. It took that much
Which one
strength.
is that?
That's second series where you are in a forearm stand, lotus, lower down, go back up.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That one. Yep. Mhm.
Wickedly, it's harder than
Hard.
most of fourth series. It is so hard.
Well, the core strength and balance. I love inversions. They're really hard for me though, because I'm tall and heavy.
Yeah, but this one, I was like, you know what? I don't like how they teach it because no one ever gets it. I'm
Exactly.
gonna break down this beast. I'm gonna take it apart and I am gonna work the parts,
Yes.
put it back together. And I got that damn pose, and everyone was like,
But how else do you get it? You have to break. If you can't do it, you
this
have to
thing
break it
is
down.
like literally this one pose is like trying to climb Everest, and it's like the the resistance that I would get from people. I'm like, I can do this thing. Like literally, I would go see Sharat, and I'm in a room of 100 people, and I am the only female going back up in this room. The only one. I could go down, I could hang out for a half hour and go back up. Like I had mastered it that well. And I still got pushback from women being like, well, I don't want to break it apart and learn that way. Okay, well, then you're fucking on your own. Good luck, and
But
like,
why do they say that? Forearm balances, it took me 12 years of training to master them. I did everything wrong. And finally, I learned to break down each part because I'm heavy and prolapsy and, it's hard for me. I got it. I can do that when I'm a bigger, probably not now, I'm a little tense, but if I lean out, I can totally do that now. I have that. I love inversions. They're like my favorite jam because they were so hard, but I break them down. I do a lot of like push-ups with my legs at 90-degree angles on the wall so I can stay there along. I micro train each the core. I have a core training series that strengthens your iliopsoas so well because that like that you have to stabilize each position. Yeah. Well, how else do you get it? I had to break it down and now I can do all kinds of crazy variations too. How do you get to that without breaking it down? That doesn't make any sorry, this makes me really mad.
no,
That's why I
but like,
left
but
Ashtanga. How? Then
I
how? What's the
I got
answer for
so
me?
much pushback from that. And I was like, well, you could just never do it, then I don't really care. And really the thing about that pose more than anything and is that it required lats.
Oh
And
yeah.
there's nothing like there's no way you can lower down in lotus and like lift yourself back up off the ground without your lats. But
Yep.
there's nothing prior to that pose showing up
Strengthens your
straight
lat.
your lats. Nothing. And so I would actually like those who would listen and myself, I finally figured it out. I was like, I'm gonna put a rope around my arms and
Mhm. Yep.
push against and go this way with my arms. And I did that like I was trying to build wings for
Mhm.
months. And then boom, one day I just went back up and I was like, I knew it
Why do they not allow that in Ashtanga?
because they're assholes.
My teacher studied with Batabi Joyce and Iyengar. She was a legend. She was amazing. And she would break everything down. When I came across, so we were trained in her ashram setting. And so I didn't know about the Ashtanga. So I remember the first time we went to an Ashtanga, she told me, she's like, do the sequences exactly. No very, because she would always have mini sequences to strengthen or open and then return. Yeah. And return. And it was just put in there, oh, you're tight here. So we do this opening, and we would work in little groups where they would support and adjust, and everyone was able to train their body to do. I didn't know how naughty that was. I'm like, but why? As if Patabi Joyce didn't train that stuff. I mean, he
Well,
trained
and the
with,
other thing is, Patabi Joyce cheated the individual. The way he taught Maya is not how he taught Noah, is not how he taught Prem, is not how he taught, Tim Miller or Richard Freeman. He taught them all based on their bodies. And then they went out and taught what they knew, but they didn't bring the idea of nuance with them. And I don't get that. Like,
they didn't
I can't imagine teaching a wallflower the same way that I would teach a warrior. It's just like one needs to be restrained and the other one needs a fire under their ass. Like, I can't imagine having the same blanket protocol. That just is that's such a disservice.
well, in each asana, if you get to the more subtle levels, they have moods and they could have many moods. Like there's a way you can have a graceful way of moving into your warrior two, or you can have an aggressive one of moving. Like there's so many options of, and it's not there. And so what's the fun in that? I mean, I taught Krama Vinyasa, which is open style. So, which is what Patabi Joyce was actually trained in, what they all learned from
Yeah, I've heard about Vinyasa
I-
Krama.
yeah, so krama means intelligent and vinyasa is order. So it basically means an intelligent sequence, but it's towards what? So the whole purpose is so we have kramas for the arms with asanas that are to open, asanas that are to strengthen, some that are combined, and you learn to make these little inter-rhythmic things and it trains all the poses, but it breaks everything down into these little offshoots. And it's amazing when you're trained in that system. And I could show you the philosophy so simple, a couple of like things, and you would be like, oh my gosh, because you see the Ashtanga system falls within it. Yeah. So does the Iyengar system. So does uh why am I losing these words? Vinny Yoga from Desikachar. So and he's the one that's closest because that's what his father, and I'm losing words here. Wow. 45, stay alive. Let's see. What was the founder of Krama Vinyasa who brought it forward is why am I losing this word? I've given this lecture like a hundred times literally. Wow. Okay, it'll come back to me. But the one who
I
went
know why
to
I don't remember, and it's because I don't practice anymore.
yeah.
Lost
Well,
touch with who I used to be.
I love the lineage of it because yoga is actually a very complete system, but people don't know that because they've been taught these little branches and they've lost like all the physical, the focus on the physical. It's only to get the body in the good condition so you can sit still. So you're not feeling all disturbed by your shoulder being misaligned, and we can focus on more subtle, more nuanced aspects of life. So, and
Yeah.
I feel like it's all been lost.
Well,
And
it's supposed to be like even yoga chikitsa is supposed to be a therapy. Like it's not supposed to be a show. And the thing that like ultimately burned me was the chronic virtue signaling.
oh
I
God, oh God.
so I had like a friend who, she was 10 years younger and she was fresh to the practice, very agile, strong body. I taught her Kranavasana. I worked with her. I actually brought her to host two of my retreats as an assistant or an assistant one time, a co-host the other. As soon as she got authorized, she acted like she didn't know me. And I
Really?
was like, oh, that's how that goes, huh? So the second you get your authorization, all of a sudden you're better than me.
What
Got
a
it.
system.
Got
What
it.
an external, like, yeah, but that tells you that I came across. I remember when I went professional because I wasn't really planning on it. I just pivoted in my life, and my teacher, she's not hyperbolic. Okay, she's very like, so she says to me, "Oh," she talked real funny. I'm doing the impression. "Oh, you're going to teach now." She leans in like this and she goes, "It's a real viper's den." And I was like, no, what do you mean? It's yoga. Everyone means well. And, a little Pollyanna me, like, because I was very sheltered in my training. I studied, my father was a yogi. I grew up. It was always like very natural. So I was blessed with that. But when I went to work professionally, I've never seen more vicious people. And I was coming from living in Las Vegas previously, negotiating with casinos, like Shark Tank, like very sharky, aggressive. I thought this is going to be way more. I have never seen more dramas, backstabbing, unethical behavior, and just like literally, that's why I don't work. I work with very few people because you can't even see it coming. I'm busy trying to run a training or teach a thing, and someone starts a drama. You're like, what is the purpose of this? What is even going on here? Like it was crazy. Betrayals, lies, you know, theft. And then I talked to her after working for like 3 years and building my school. And I was like, you were right. She's like, I know. So now just like her, I stopped. I teach privately online. I'll go to Peru, which is a wonderful community. The Peruvian yogis, they don't have like, I'm sure they do, but not around me. There's no vibes because we have a community there that there's no hierarchy. No one, if you're flexible, and who cares? Are you an awesome person? Are you kind? So the way you have value in that community I created in Peru is by being genuinely a respectful, decent, wonderful human, not by athletics. Hey, you're good at that. Okay, help her. It's a very, there's none of that vibey showing off because I'll just laugh and go make fun of them or teach them a really hard version, whatever. Like I just never allowed it. Or like, I don't allow that. And it's a culture and it comes from the teacher. And you see this now everywhere. Everyone's showing off. How can you do spiritual practice if you're worrying about what your neighbor thinks of you?
I dealt with a lot of cattiness here in Vegas.
Really?
Like a lot. Like boy, and I literally was like trying to collaborate. There was one girl who I gave her my class. I gave it to her, and then she turned around and talked shit about me to the community. And she ends up kind of burning all her bridges because she's really just nasty. But other people would just be so passive aggressive. They never wanted to get close to me because whatever, like they never like I had so much backstabbing that happened in Vegas. And I remember there was one woman, this older woman, Filipino, and she just like really tried to push me out the door of this one studio where I wasn't teaching there regularly, like, because that's not my jam. Like, I hated teaching. So if I was going to teach, it was going to be one-on-one or workshop style, but I wasn't going to have a class. That was,
I never liked having classes
I
either. I
never,
like
I wasn't trying to class. I didn't even like hosting Mysore. I just didn't want to do it. But she tried so hard. And I remember because I'd gotten direct feedback about things that she had said about me. I ran into her at a studio, at Tim Miller Studio in Encinitas, and she tried to play
I
nice.
used
And
to
I said,
train there.
Celine, I said, it's interesting. You can talk all this shit about me and try and block me from getting gigs or whatever in Vegas. I said, that's fine because I consider Vegas a pond, right? And my career is the ocean because I have taught all over the world by invite. So you can have your pond and that's all you'll be remembered for, and that's fine. But my experience and my name and my message, it's everywhere, and that's fine. That's how I felt in the end. Like if you guys want to harp over this community called Vegas, take it. I don't fucking care. Have it. I really could care less if everyone in Vegas thinks I'm worthless because overseas, everyone is interested in who I am, and that's fine. That's fine. I will host my retreats. I will go to these workshops. I will,
It's
it's fine. Like I just was like, wow,
it's
but
it's painful to
so
see
bad.
in your community to see people that like for me, like like there was the catty pettiness that people have, but there was also the pain of like you're not actually my colleague because I would never like I encourage like hey, how about you come? I would when I started my school in Miami, I invited all the famous teachers to come meet my students. I didn't have a studio. Come, they can practice. I was like this. And God, did they hate me? They tried to I couldn't believe it. I was like, I literally gave you my students. They were pissed because I could pack a teacher training. And they're like, who is this person who just comes to town and now she's got 30 people in her first teacher training? And I'm like, why don't you come and teach your best stuff and give them your card and invite them to practice it? Like, come. And I paid them too. And so it wasn't just like I would pay them for their lectures. I couldn't believe it because that's how I would have wanted to be treated. But they hated me because it was successful. And I was like, well, I could show you why it's, let me show you why my programs sell out. Let me show you they hated me even more for that. I was like, all right, all right. And it made my heart like, and this is the work I had to do. It made my heart sour in a way because I had considered them like my sister or brother on the path that you help. And they had considered me something to be smeared and kicked and harmed. And I had to really undo that because it started to make me rigid and make me like it like them. And I said, oh no, no, I will not become like this. And I had to do some real work. And then I launched my international career after my Emmy got like this. I was like, guys, I can just teach overseas. And then, yeah, and then everything took off.
That was the difference. It was like you can't. There was one thing that I was told a long time ago by the man who assaulted me. Ironically, he was Indian. Um, and but he said something because that's his culture, and he goes, "I just want you to remember this page. This is before any of the drama." But he said, I was brought up with this statement, which is, you cannot save someone from their karma, nor can you rob them of their dharma. Always remember that. Because he was talking about his children and how one of them, they had all this money when the first child was born and gave him a $50,000 birthday. And then the second kid, they were broke, the businesses went under, and they could barely get him a cake. And they were just like, these things are on their backs. And I always remembered that because it was like, try to rob me of my dharma. Try, go for it. You're just wasting your own time. You know what I mean? The last thing that I would ever put energy into is trying to sabotage somebody. Like, I got better things to do. You
It's
will ruin
it
it for yourself eventually. It's fine.
the only thing that can happen with karma is you can postpone the bad karma for somebody, but you can't stop it. And postponing it is actually cruel. Because think of it this way, I had a great teacher. Like, so you have like, let's say 100 years of life, and let's say you're really messing up, but everyone around you is kind of pouring energy and help in. So instead of you crashing in your life at 20 or 25 and like
I'll tell
having
you.
enough, yeah, you postpone it to 30 or 35 when it's harder to recover. And so this is one of the things like, I have students that have like kids that are in trouble and you want to rescue them. And it's like, if it's drugs, obviously you need to intervene. But if it's something like they're not doing well in school, let them.
Mhm.
Stop pushing, let it
Yep,
crash because they're young enough that they can recover. And you think, but then what? No, no, no. Let them see the fruits of their inaction or their action young. So they learn the inner discipline to choose because what you're either going to get consequences or results.
100%.
Did you say that to
Yeah.
me? That you and did I get the words right?
Hmm.
I really like that. I'm like, it was a very concise way to put it. Like, if don't go, like, I don't want to go work out every day, but you know what I want even less is to be in an unhealthy body. You know what I mean? So,
Totally. And I always tell clients who are struggling, like when they're coming out of a power struggle and they're bitter, they're like, but what if I, no, get out of the way, get out of the way. The sooner you get out of the way, the faster things will happen for both of you. Get out of the way. So,
yeah.
and
So,
it's much more powerful, but like, it's just so disappointing. Like when you come from a system that's supposed to be about healing, and I broke my heart that like I'm trying to teach my clients how to love themselves too. Like part of the capacity to heal and even evolve is to embrace the parts of yourself, not shame and reject the parts of yourself, and then project all of that onto somebody else. And yet they do that. How dare you eat meat? How dare you use guns? How dare you? And it's like, whoa, like, and I like to tell this story in this sense because I feel as though, with samsara, there's just this constant rebirth, and death and rebirth. And I'd spoken to an Indian man years ago, and he said most people they get the renunciation process all wrong. Everyone just wants to run away, but that's not renunciation. They want to go live on a mountaintop, and really they're just trying to get rid of responsibility, but that's not renunciation. Renunciation is where you shed your identification to all of these things and you purify to a point. He goes, but the job's not done. Renunciation doesn't have to be this external process where you go away. It's very much internal of a shedding of identities and things that those oh, what are those things called? I'm trying to find the Sanskrit terms, but basically like the things that we identify with that aren't helpful.
kleshas, the kleshas. I mean, there's a lot of words that describe it. It's ahamkar, the ego, and then it becomes identified to the different ideas of self, the personality, the memories, and then it creates
Samskaras, like you're trying to shed the
scars. Yeah, sheds
and
some scars.
and so you're going through that. He goes, but that's not the end. He goes, guess what happens after? You go back into the village and you serve.
Exactly. Exactly.
And so that's what I tell people. I'm like, the path of Paige came to an end. Like, what else was I supposed to do with my body? What else was I supposed to shed? And with that comes a stepping back into kind of the material realm, because you can't help people who are on that level if you're not there, right? And so it's like you don't just evolve to a point where like you would never eat meat or never use a gun again. No, you're now taking on the responsibility of being able to now re-identify with people that it's your job to serve and help, and it's a completely different space to be in.
Yeah, I love what you said. I think that's incredibly clear and precise and spot on. And if I was gonna like summarize the kind of hidden thing underneath, it's avoidance of force. They're afraid to use force. And this is a universe of force because the sattvic peaceful shanti, the peaceful state, it's a neutral state. And we achieve this in our meditations, but you go into the world and you keep the internal like this, but you have to use force. This is a universe. When I go to drive, I'm using force. When I speak, I'm using force. And if you don't become skillful at using force, which to the extreme, like I love martial arts, I don't get in fights. That's actually you don't need to, when you know how to use force, your handling of force is incredibly precise and you don't want to hurt people. So
Sure.
it doesn't make you
Yeah.
more. And so this underneath all of that is like this avoidance and the attachment to, if I'm spiritual, I'm always peaceful. I have a great story about, yeah. But I had that idea when I was a little yogi. I was 19. I'm showing up with my teacher, and this changed my life. She always drove this little weird blue car. You know, she's a wild woman, yeah. Flip-flops, everything. Well, this day she was a little late and we're all lined up. Tim Miller's, we were practicing in Tim Miller's studio in Encinitas. I'm not sure if he has the same one, but the one from like 20 some years ago.
Oh yeah, and I remember that one. It's changed, but yeah.
Yeah, so she's walking across that street and they had just freshly tarred the road. And she has amazing feet. And she stepped in some tar. And I watched her because I was just like enamored. She was the god to me, you know? And I watched, she gets so mad, like a wave of anger. And she comes storming like thunder legs across the street. And she walks up and she takes her foot and like does the yogi toes right to us. She's like, I'm so angry. And we were like, we're terrified because we've never seen her angry. And we clean the tar off her foot and we go inside. She sets up and it was totally gone. We sat and we practiced. There was not a remnant of what happened. And this stuck with me my entire life because she got really angry, expressed it. I am so angry. Just exactly. I am so angry. Now I'm angry. She was just angry. Yeah.
Mhm.
And it burned up and she just went. And I was this, because then I realized, oh, it's not that people who have a degree of mastery are always peaceful. It's that they're first responsive to the situation, they're honest with their emotions, and they know how to transmute them quickly. Because the end goal is not to become some benign object. If you're always peaceful, you usually no force on the world, you can't eat, you can't walk, you can't. And so
Shit, you can't do anything.
everything, and you walk on the sidewalk, you're killing things. When we're looking at this ahimsa and this relationship to the world, we have to be there. There is no eating without killing.
Sure.
There is no like choosing myself and my community and somebody else doesn't lose. It's not, this is a universe of force and where essentially life is eating itself. And that is one aspect of our being, but it's not the whole thing. And I think that the people who live avoiding force and avoiding conflict and avoiding their shadow and avoiding the pain because they have to be spiritual and avoiding, they end up in a real prison with a facade on the outside. Yeah. Oh, look, it's a pretty house, but inside is all those trapped things. And what I've noticed working with people who are very false is the mask always cracks under pressure. Like I remember seeing, I've worked with some high level people, and this was another thing that just broke my heart when I would look up to someone and see them having to maintain the facade, but I can also know what's underneath because I'm very sensitive. And I would just think, just be honest. You're fucking pissed off about that. And it's okay. And then we moved through it. But it was this, I'm like, wow, it's a prison. And this you see. And then the students of those teachers learn the same behavior. It's handed down. That's a lineage. That's the light, is like the lineage is not just the poses in the story, it's the manner, the behavior, the container the teacher creates. That becomes the familiar place that you, when you teach, will return to. And I am so blessed that my teacher had a really true, she was a rebel too. I mean, she left the whole thing because the reasons that we all leave. But yeah, she was also a medical doctor, so it was really quite wonderful studying with her. I was so blessed. And then you come in, then I came out of that cave into the world of modern yogis who cared more about their mat and their yoga pants.
Oh, I know. It's so disappointing. And these days, it's like I have that spiritual awareness that I've integrated into the material.
Of course, that's what you're supposed to do. That's the whole point, is to
Yeah.
make everything, every moment, a moment of presence and bring the spirit into the life.
Well, and I got to a point where I had like disidentified with so much. And I was like, well, now I'm just empty. That was not really the goal. And okay. And like that emptiness was not someplace I wanted to live. I'm like, really? Like I thought that this would take me to like that was a lesson. Like I thought it would take me to some higher dimension of consciousness. No, just an empty vessel that I became. I had kind of disidentified with so much of my pain and my experiences. And I was like, well, I gotta fill this back up, and so it becomes more of an experience, of choosing what to identify with. It's not always about omission or getting rid of as much as we just want to choose how we show up instead. As long as we are in human form, I say this to people who try to one up me, and I'm like, look, as long as you're in human form, you're subject to human condition, period. I don't care how much fucking work you've done. You still have to do your laundry and you still have to do the dishes. You are not above the rest of us. Like, plain and simple.
Post the other day, what stage of enlightenment does doing dishes like become fun? And of course, you can put the attitude into it, but it's always there. I always say, in the past it would be before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water; after chop wood, carry. Now it's before enlightenment, send emails, do dishes; after enlightenment, still got to send. And but the reality is that I don't think anyone is ever not enlightened, because the very light is always there. It's just the realization. And if you put something false in the space where knowing should exist because you want to be seen as something, you've just really shortchanged yourself. And that's why I agree with you that the yoga practices are really for outliers. They're with people who often, like, because to make those changes, you're going to upset people's idea of you. And to have the strength to actually do that and make real changes and to become a more you version of you, you're going to upset them. And so they don't want, but then they're not going to like you for a bit. Yeah. As you're doing that reset, and you have to have the tolerance to endure social fallout. Because I mean, yoga, if you're really doing the practice, it's going to ruin your life. It's going to, all the
Oh,
relationships you have,
absolutely.
it's going to ruin all of it. And if you don't go through that and you kind of bypass it and go with the facade instead, you might keep all your friends and they might look at you, but it's a false light and you are a false light. And it's just not worth it. It's when you really are so tired of the bullshit of this world and you're ready to do the inner work to go in, your life will not be the same when you walk out of it. And with the programs I do online, I tell people this: look around at your life. Like, I just finished a 7 months, we went longer, and I love those long programs because all the things, all the elements in their life change. And I'm there for them though. And that's the part I like. I'm like, hey, these relationships are gonna get disturbed. And you're there for them because it's uncomfortable. And you start like, should I be changing my life? And oh, I just upset all these people. Yeah, did they become upset because you did something wrong? Or did they become upset because you did something right? Yeah. And that's what you have to look, because one of those upsets is a problem. But if I'm there, I can have them, because it really comes down to the inner ethics. We've lost the yamas and niyamas and they're misunderstood. And yamas and niyamas, the ethical practices, but they're necessary because otherwise the asana poisons you. If you don't have the ethics strong, you become very attached. What if you're good at asana? What if you start yoga and you get a lot of accolades right at the beginning? How dangerous is this? Because now you get that super ego. Ta-da! I'm spiritual, you know? Did you know all my legs, where they go? You know what I mean? And you get attached to that and you lose the real thing.
No, I totally agree. I totally agree. And there's just the ethics, yeah, there's no moral code. I mean, and I'm being very judgmental, but I'm choosing to be judgmental on purpose because I feel like this just needs some attention. It's like
There's
I
nothing wrong
see,
with being judgmental,
yeah,
actually. It's taught in yoga.
I see a lot of people come to the practice with these like for example, the former addicts, and they don't actually work on the addiction. They just replace it with the Ashtanga, you know? That happens a lot. You know, it's like,
I've
well,
seen
if you weren't going to choose this, you would have chose born again Christianity, like clearly based on your personality.
Ashtanga is particularly one for addicts because
Oh yeah.
the strictness you can get, and it's got its whole thing. Like I've seen that with where the other practices, they don't have that one quite. It really is.
Yeah, no, it definitely attracts the the masochist. Like it will attract them out. Like I need someone to beat me up and tell me I'm more awful and keep me in line. Like the Ashtanga will do that. And you know, you get to a point, thankfully, because I'm just at my core an outlier. So like I'm a former gymnast. I like discipline. It was natural for me. But then I got to a point where I was like, you're not going to talk to me like that. This is my practice at the end of the day. And so I went through like a 10-year period where I had zero teacher because I was like, no, no one's gonna shame me for the way that my elbows move. You're just not doing it. Like,
This culture of shaming,
oh,
I always found so strange because when I taught, I never shamed a student. I would feel so awful to do that.
I didn't do it either.
I could never understand how teachers, when I'm walking around and they're vulnerable and they're doing their best, and you know, and then I'm gonna shame you because you put your pinky, like I might come and be like, oh, try like nicely, but the shaming part, well, I could never get that. And so it makes me want to like dial into like what personality, what in a person. I always wonder, like, we're both in the same career, but I would never do that. Like it would never, it just isn't there. Like of all the tools I have, shame is just not in my toolkit. Not if I unless I wanted to harm somebody, maybe I could use it, but why would I harm a student? Because you're vulnerable. You're trying to change. And then I shame you?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been one for the underdog. So as a teacher, my focus was always on like giving them something that made them feel like I can keep showing up. Like it was really important for me to just fuel that and to incentivize the growth because that built their confidence level and then they would do deeper work. You know, the shame, it eroded the spirit. I'd see it happen. I remember
It
so
gets small.
the pick up and jump back where you don't touch the floor, that's like the move you do over and over again. And like there's the the haves and the have nots. Like there's those who can do it and those who can't. My career took off because that video, a friend of mine in LA had a production company. He did all these videos of yogis at Yoga Works, and he's like, let's do one with you. Let's do the pick up and jump back. That video is what set my career afloat. That one video, because I broke it down so well that people would get it. There was a girl, so I'm gonna keep names out of it, but there was this
Yeah.
one girl at Yoga Works who I would come to her class. I didn't consider her my teacher, but I would come to her class when I was in town, and her Mysore class, and I would see this other girl. They were like besties, and she was so close to getting this move. And I was like, you just need to do this and this, and I'm telling you, you got it. And she did it, and she got it. But she was a little bit weak, so she'd kind of lean into one of her, like she'd pick up and jump back, but she'd kind of tilt to the side in the beginning. But she cleared the floor, and I was like, yes, you got it. Like that was, you have no idea, like the look on her face to be able to have accomplished this thing when she showed the teacher, her bestie. She was like, well, I just don't like how you lean into your shoulder. Her spirit just shattered in a second. And I was just like, and I said to her, I was like, The hardest part is over. You can
Yeah. Now
refine.
you refine it. Now you just make it better, but she did the actual thing. She knows. Why would you take that from
I
her?
know. I was just like,
What is that in them? I find it so that's why I was ran my own school, my own group, my own everything because that behavior and I have a mouth on me. So don't do it in front of me because like I'm one of these people, I'll get kicked out. I'll stand up, be like, I'll do a speech on the way out. I can project my voice. This is why this is wrong. You shouldn't be doing this. You're crushing them. I've done that several times because a teacher was so offensive to a student. They want to bully me, they always do because I got moves. But I expect it in like an Ashtanga class, they'll always bully me. I don't care because it just shows me who you are. But if you're bullying someone who's not durable like I am,
oh, yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, that's why I say like the underdog, and I protect them and go to bat for them. And, you
that
know,
shouldn't even be. We shouldn't even have, like, the
I know.
fact that we are both talking about protecting these little sweet beings that are just trying to do a thing, that shouldn't, what culture allows for that? Like, you know what I'm saying?
But that's just it. It's not yoga. If you want to be treated like shit, go into the military. You,
You know what? They're not even that bad. I used to teach, I taught 3 years at Southern Command, trained a lot of military people, loved it, loved it. They are great at yoga. Honestly, I was so surprised at how disciplined, like I was blown away. But they're not like this. They wouldn't, that kind of shame, which is, it's rooted in something else. And it is really, I don't have a word for this. It's somehow extra nasty, as if it has the sting of a scorpion tail when it hits a person, because in the military they expect it and they know they're going to have that to be broken down to teach them to be resilient. It's part of it. But you go to your yoga teacher and you expect like, help, maybe some criticism, but packaged, hey, you can improve this, try it this way, how about this? But the shame thing, it doesn't make, as a teacher, if I shame you, you shrink. I need to make you bigger. I need to make you bolder. I need to make you stronger.
absolutely.
And you shrink your students, and it's a bad teacher. Bad teacher.
Well, and the other thing that because I'm an empath, I just started to step on these energetic trends of people's holographic trauma. And I was like, why are they moving like that? Why do they always do that with their foot? Why that like, and then it became with my teaching, I started seeking out the trauma, and kind of became known for helping people break through their trauma with asana.
But
And like,
that's the work. What are
yeah,
we doing?
yeah, exactly. And so that was one thing I loved doing. And, you would see people the way they move because they're doing the same thing over and over again. And you see the pattern, you're like, they're avoiding this. So let's go there. And like they'd always get angry first. They'd be like turn into demons, and then they would just cry as the information that holographic information would start to ooze out of them. But that was like one of the things I loved doing. And you can't do that with a student if they feel guilty, ashamed, or bad, or like you can't, right? You have
Shut
to
them down.
set up the stage to be like, let's see what's going on so we can address it and heal it. You're not bad. And they'd be it's amazing. Everyone uses the same language. I'm going to get hurt if I go there. Interesting. So what happened that you got hurt the last time you went there, right? And we would, just dig in and I loved that part because then they could move into those parts of their bodies safely and freely again. And there was just so much more connection and just, like I was talking to a buddy of mine because he's trying to heal from a relationship and talk about habits. And I said, you want to get to a place where you're less shadow and more conscious. Like that's really, you got to get to that 50%, 51% point. And then the work kind of happens more organically. And that's what was my whole intention with trying to get these shadow pieces out of the body. You know what I mean? Because then it changes how they show up in other areas of their lives and they're more
Oh,
integrated.
completely. Oh, absolutely, completely. And to do that with someone, they have to trust you. And if you're worried that I might lash out at you or shame you, you can't open. And
Totally.
so And so those teachers who act that way, they limit the scope of their work. They can never get the results I can because their students don't trust, they can't open, they don't feel safe. I mean, see, when I taught, I learned so much about overcome. Like I didn't used to be a hugger. Yeah. But after I would do a course, the students would always, they want to, I'm so much meaning in their life. And I would be like, oh, it's the end, gotta hug it. And I started getting anxiety. And then I just stopped and I thought about it. I'm like, what the hell is wrong with you? Your little thing with, because I'm very clean, I'm just very clean. Your thing with this, just go shower afterwards. You know all the ways to clean energy off. Like it's so much more important to them that you let them touch your body and be close to you than your thing. And it's like when we the role of teaching, there's a huge responsibility to be in a way. It's not my preferences anymore. I'm there to awaken, to bring something out in somebody else. And there's a lot of tools in that toolbox, and shame is not one of them. In only if you want to damage a person. And if you're intentionally damaging your students, maybe you shouldn't be teaching.
Well, I think it's control. They're just seeking control, because when you don't feel in control, you just try to control the environment. And this is why self-love is such a huge integral part of my practice and what I teach other people, because the more you embrace the parts of yourself, the filter by which you deal with reality changes. You don't care anymore if you're in control of the external. It doesn't matter because it doesn't influence you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just
Exactly.
think they wanted that control. They set a standard in their mind of who they are and who they think they are, and they have to make sure that they micromanage everything to maintain that. And
Yeah.
it's disappointing. They're not doing the work. The teachers aren't doing the work.
No, they're worried. They're doing image management constantly. And I would your students are going to have different images of you as it goes. I tell them at certain parts, I'm like, you're going to hate me today. You'll like me after, but today you're going to hate me, and that's okay. I'm prepared. And that's it. And then they trust you. I tell them ahead of time, today it's going to suck. Going to suck for me too, because y'all going to be hating me about 2 hours in, and I know it, but I'm okay with that because afterwards. And this I think has been lost. I don't know. I feel like we really need some great teachers, but then I think who would want to do that? Because people have a thing now where they attack teachers, you know, and especially the really good ones. Because if someone's really successful, this happened to me because I'm really good at awakening things in my students. So I got a lot of students. So then you have to find something wrong with me because someone can't actually be what I am. How can you wear it? I'm not managing my image. Half the time my hair's all a mess, eyebrows half washed off because they're not, I got to draw these things in. And so you got to find something wrong with me. I found a lot of it really creative, but inaccurate. But also, I don't want that. Like that's the thing. Like the more famous you get, is the more you get people trying to find things wrong with you while you're busy trying to help people. And who has that was, and so I think it'd be great if there were teachers that were out there, but who wants to stand on that stage with the way people behave nowadays? And then what, to get destroyed?
Yeah, I definitely got, like I said, a lot of backlash for being an
Yeah.
outlier. But my upbringing primed me for it because as the scapegoat, I'm like, oh, you don't like me either? What a surprise. Next. Like, oh
Yeah,
well.
I
So
was always like
I
that.
literally to this day, I'm like, you like me? Are you sure? Like
Are
I
you
don't
sure?
like I'm not like, what, you don't like me? I'm like, you do? Like it's the opposite. Like when someone is really interested in me, I'm always like, you think twice. Are you sure about this? Because most
It's
people
funny
don't
you
like
say
me.
that.
I'm used to playing not defense, but I'm used to like, oh, okay, here it is again, not a problem.
Yeah, yeah. So I grew up in a religious community, but I was yogi. So it was a Amish Mennonite country, and I was also always in trouble and something wrong with me. And it did give me a certain resilience. And I was thinking about what you just said the other day, that I'm always surprised. My students love me, but I'm surprised by it still because that there's a shell or a remnant of all of that. Like when are you going to decide that I'm evil and need to be taken out? Because it's happened so many times in different, while I'm doing good work, someone comes up with a way to make you bad. But here's the thing is that it's never taken me out, and it always went back the other way. I remember meeting people and, oh, I've heard a lot about you. And then they talk to me and they're like, yeah, that was really inaccurate. I'm like, it's good to make your own opinions. But that happened more in yoga than anywhere else. But before it was there. And I have that same thing where I'm like, okay, at what point, and I have to undo it,
Mhm.
and be like, It's okay." Because here's the thing, people's opinions are fickle and change like the wind. So why should I worry? You hate me today, you love me tomorrow, you hate me today, you love me tomorrow. At least you remember me. At least, babe, we're not forgettable.
Oh, absolutely. Like that's one thing. Like I definitely, as a 10th house Aries sun conjunct the midheaven, I can't go anywhere and not get noticed. It is what it is. I have the sun around me everywhere. It's annoying, but
Yeah.
and I'm grateful that I've been able to do that work. Like I can look at like a million nasty comments and be like, all
Well,
right, I heard them.
you're showing who you are, the person whose intention. Like I'm pretty damn immune to shame, guilt, blame, because I'm very clear. I know myself. But now here's the thing that we should talk a little bit. If people have made it this far listening about the dark underbelly of, the spiritual world, is what would you say for those who are kind of dipping their toes in and beginning, that would help you navigate, all the information, and maybe avoid some of the traps we've stepped into, or some of the stumbles, or some of the pain? Like, what advice would you give to a seeker?
I mean, I would start with like learning how to gauge your intuition and that let that be your barometer. Like let that be the thing that guides you.
It's so interesting you say that, because I was going to say basically the same thing, but the way I describe it, like it's exactly this, because you always know. But what happens is, like, you ever get that, you're with someone, you're like, this doesn't, this seems incongruent. Something's not adding up. And then the voice comes in. It's like, no, don't be judgmental. And it starts telling you, and that logic voice, it's lying. The first interface of a field gives you so
Oh,
much.
my first instincts are always on point.
Always, yeah, they're always on
Oh,
point.
it's like I can see an email come in and I can be like, that's bad news.
I'm getting the vibes. The vibes are coming in.
Or, oh, something is finished and it's flight. Like I literally, like my instincts are so on point. It's annoying sometimes.
So what would you say to people to get their intuition and to really validate the inner knowing, which oftentimes is very illogical? Well, how do I know this? And yet,
I actually walk people through a process. So it's similar to muscle testing, but it's
oh,
it's my biggest way to gauge. So I literally say to someone, I'm like, I want you to close your eyes, put your hands on your heart, and for a second, I want you to actually think about your favorite person or pet, like whoever this is, like you just love them to death, or the most amazing thing ever. What does that feel like to you? Okay, you got that feeling? Okay, abandon them, get rid of them, reject them, never see them, and never talk to them, leave the animal on the side of the road. How do you feel? The first one is your yes, the second one is your no.
that's fucking great.
Yeah, so that's what I teach them so they know very clearly what a yes feels like and what a no feels like.
That's a great analogy. That's real fast too. I'm gonna
Yeah.
borrow that. Thanks,
So,
babe.
yeah,
That's
so this way, like they can get in touch with their instincts real quick. Because there's emotional, like that they're heightened when you do it that way. It's like all of a sudden they just feel shattered. There's a wall. It's tight. It's no way I can't do that. It's like, thank you. That's what no feels like. Yeah.
that's That's excellent, clear advice. I love that. I love that, because that's a great technique. And the more you practice and get familiar with both kind of extremes, then you can start to catch the nuance.
Hmm.
Now, what advice would you give to someone who, like, does that process, starts walking towards what feels good, but then the doubt comes in, and people say, "What are you doing? That's crazy." And they have the intuition. How do you get them to stay on path and not collapse or give up from the outside input?
So the rule is intuition never provides a reason. Fear gives you a list.
That's another look at that t-shirt. That's some, you're like really good at these little one-line
I'm a
phrases.
teacher.
Yeah. this is but it's very nice compact seed. I like
Yeah,
that.
no, you're bringing the teacher out of me. So that's what you do for that.
No, that's great though. So intuition never has a reason. It's unreasonable.
Mhm.
Fear has a list. And then you get all the justifications and you convince yourself it's the right choice, but yet you wake up in a prison that doesn't feel like home.
And fear doesn't protect you. Fear
No.
protects itself.
Yes. The Dune quote on fear is my fear is the mind killer is the little death is a great quote. If you guys are watching it, Google Dune by Frank Herbert, the quote on fear. It's like so elegant and well put. And it basically says, when it comes, I let it pass through me and over me. And when it is gone, only I remain. It's a beautiful quote of like dealing with fear because I think it's really important to address anyone that's beginning the spiritual path is fear will come up because change is coming.
Oh, absolutely. And it's once you're on that bandwagon, you can't unconsciousness yourself. You're like the awareness comes in and then you have to try to like live it in duality if you're trying to go like get out of it. It's very painful. It's 10 times harder. Um, but yeah, the thing about fear and it protects itself. When I was breaking up with my habits, so first of all, I just want to state if you want to practice that will supersede pretty much everything, self-love, and I can break that down in another time. If it's part of my program. Because it does. It just really just changes the filter from which you deal with everything. But before I developed a self-love practice, I was doing just the habits and learning the habits. And one of the things that I would do when fear would come up is I would go, and so like the mind would shoot something at me and I'd go, and okay, and
All right,
now
monster
I
in
do
the
that to
mind,
people
and
who do
then
that to
what?
me. And
Yeah.
now that's the way I converse with people. And what else? You're old and you're ugly and whatever. Like, but that's in the mind, it doesn't have a response. It gets really bad at responding when you do stuff like that.
I like that. Yeah, these are great nuggets. Now, what would you let's say someone has let's use the Ashtanga analogy. Someone just began, they're 3 months into their practice, their teacher is a bully, but they really love their practice, and there's not a lot of studio options. How do you have them navigate that?
Um, so there's two things you can do depending on your confidence level. If you feel comfortable having the conversation, you can basically address the teacher and go, I like the practice. I don't like your approach. If you're willing to work with me, great. If you're not, I'm leaving, or just leave. Because the practice is something that isn't contingent upon that person, which is nice. You can practice anywhere, anytime. You can find an online teacher to help you as well. You're not stuck with just your local teacher. I spent plenty of years. Like, look, I remember being a teenager and telling my parents they needed to rip up the carpet in my bedroom and put down wood because I was practicing at home. And they did.
I love it. Yeah, you can't practice on carpet. No. How about no?
No,
Yeah,
the stands I made growing up to cater to my yoga practice. I built an entire, in fact, when I bought my house, I put wood floors down, top to bottom, both floors everywhere. Cause like, and it's just in case I want to practice right here.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
literally, like the whole house was wood floors and on by design so that I could practice wherever I felt like it.
I love this. No,
So
I love this. I love this. So now following that line of question. So she's been going, the bullying's happened, she feels ashamed, she feels like she's never good enough, knows it's being abusive, leaves because she doesn't want to have the conversation because she's conflict averse. How does she recover herself so that she's not feeling the fear now of this happening again? What would you recommend?
I honestly, if I was her, and we live in a much more digital era now than when I started,
Oh yeah.
I would find someone online who resonates. I would just watch videos, whatever they're posting, whatever they're saying, and I would get real sensitive with their messaging so
Yeah.
that my light would still be present, but again, I wanted that help. I wanted that thing to look to or that person to look to, but that's what I would do to
Yeah.
draw that inspiration from.
So for those of you watching this, feel very encouraged that you're studying in this day and age because it's literally a quick little click away, and you don't have to tolerate bad situations, bad communities. Now, okay, so now let's say let's take another step on this. So not only did she leave, but because she left and they expected her to be committed, everyone starts gossiping about it, about her, and about her leaving, speaking negatively. And she feels ostracized. She feels, like, I don't know what I did wrong, very confused, and doesn't know how to be. What do you recommend? She's lost some friends who were long-term friends who also were practitioners who brought her to the course, to the classes.
Just have her call me.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, I'm just saying because these are real things, and it's like, you find yourself if you
I
start
mean, she's
practicing.
gonna need support if she's too fragile, but and that's the thing. When we choose to do what's right for us as an individual, also a lot of times we do alienate and ostracize ourselves.
Yeah, and this is super important, I think, for people to realize that it'll pass. People have a very short memory, and maybe you're the one being gossiped about now. Give it a month. They can't keep saying the same thing. And, I've been through it a lot, but I always think I have students that'll call me in panics because they have some sort of drama like this. Then they're freaking out and their whole world's crashing over a few people. And I always remind them there's like 9 billion on the planet. It's okay to just get new ones, you know?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Find a
And
new tribe.
I mean, again, like I made it to the top 0.01% of my international community, and I was like so hated might be too strong of a word, resented might be a little bit better of a word. And
They're
and you know what? Here's the thing though. People, they don't resent you because you're slacking.
no.
They resent you because you're it.
Yep. Yeah.
Just keep that in mind. Like, it's not because you're failing that they're resenting you. If you were failing, they would have nothing to talk about, you know?
Well, I always think of it like this. When you begin something, you need encouragement. As you progress, the criticism solidifies it into a diamond. It's the pressure. It's the
Yeah.
pressure, whether it comes from the external source, your teacher, or when a student's in good condition, they've been training hard, they can handle a lot of, like, we can perfect their form because they can handle the criticism, they don't identify with it. But when you're fresh to it, I don't, it's only encouragement because I want this sprout to grow until you're strong enough. But
Mhm.
then that criticism, those attacks, that toughness, it actually makes you become coherent if you don't run from it because it tests the metal, and that pressure makes you crystallize your knowingness and be able to endure the that storm. And then, it's a good thing.
Best part is showing back up and making them uncomfortable.
Well, you and I are tigers, so we do enjoy. I always say, I'm like, go get badass, go back there with a big old smile and a waggy tail and strut your stuff. Because why not? Because why, and don't think you're amazing because of it. It's just fun to do. It's fun to succeed when everyone's throwing stuff at you.
Absolutely. And it's just, it boils down to the belief that like you don't have the right take up space, to be different, be yourself, like all the stuff I coach women on now, you know what I mean? A lifetime of people pleasing that they have to unwind because now their bodies are falling apart, right? And yeah, get it out of the way young. Start using your voice, start showing up, start exhaling loudly and take up space and don't be afraid to be yourself because like ultimately
You just made, you just gave me a flashback to Dharma Mitra. Take it like, go take up space, be loud, be yourself. He shows up to teach at this conference, walks up on the stage, squats down, and farts loudly and smiles. And I was like, okay, this is where because I don't know if you ever practiced with him, but yeah, yeah. Take up space is you're exactly right.
well, yeah, because the thing is, our bodies are going to give us feedback anyway. at some point if we are integrated. Because we can only live in duality and have a mask for so long, you know? And do you want that mask to come down in the form of cancer?
Yeah. Or just a life poorly lived.
Yeah. I mean, like I say to people, like showing up and being authentic to yourself isn't easy, but you're sure as shit not gonna win any awards the other way. Like you're not only are you like not gonna get the results you're looking for, but people aren't gonna care. They're not gonna like you don't get any results for it. You don't get any awards for it. You know what I mean? And you're compromising your voice and your desires and your like I mean, I'd rather show up and be obnoxious to people because heaven forbid I should be myself, but at least I'm getting my needs met and I'm checking the boxes off. Who are
Well,
you? I don't care.
and here's the other side of it too. So you come, you'd be like, Dharma Mitra cracked me up. And some of the people in the audience, like I thought it was the most hilarious thing because he was like the headliner. Like I thought it was a hilarious thing. And some people were deeply offended, and it tells you that that's their eyes. It's
Hmm.
like you have to realize is that you're not responsible for what vision comes out of someone else's eyes when they look at you. And and oftentimes that's the people pleasing. What's your so I'm going to send this out to my audience. I guess it'll say on the bottom, what's your website? How can they get in contact with you? Because you're awesome.
Um, I think I might just rebrand it. I guess is like it's either the dharmicpath.com or creatingthroughconnection.com. As a speaker, it's Paige Elizabeth Speaks.
Yeah,
I,
no, it's great material and great encouraging people for how to navigate a kind of treacherous path, honestly.
well, and again, it's not like it's exclusive to yoga, right? Like anytime you want to make an impact, you better be prepared to make waves. Women want to make impact, but they don't want to create
I
waves.
want the waves.
Mhm.
You can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs, honey. You
Yeah.
know.
So you want to be a bystander then, because like that's what's going to happen. And for me, I just look at it like when I die, none of the material is going to come with me, but my experiences and my consciousness will. So what does that look like?
Yeah,
So I've
exactly.
gone much better. In fact, I recently just kind of went through a reformation in terms of my own voice because I've always spoken, but reluctantly, almost like, fine, I'll do it again. Fine, And the lessons that I went through recently, the message that I got, it was like, okay, universe, like I need to do this from authority and not from like, what's the word? Like out of reluctance, but I actually need to do it more so on purpose, which has only helped me to dissolve that in any residual defenses that I was coming from. I don't do power struggle, but there was still a little power struggle within me because I didn't want to be the person again talking like there was that power struggle going on. And it just became so clear to me recently, and that's why like I decided to get back into speaking and actually use my voice on that level as well, because it's like, no, 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 no. You are an authority. Step into that fucking archetype already. Don't do it out of, like, ugh, fine, okay, so I have to go fight this person again in court. Like, don't do it from that place. Do it from, no, you're not actually going to take advantage of me. We're going to deal with this appropriately now. Like, and
Put the
as I, huh?
put the ethics in.
Right. And not just like the fight,
Mhm.
just, but like, no, like I'm going to command it as opposed to just showing up reluctantly and be the authority and speak from that place. And it's been really interesting because it's only been in the last 2 months that I've noticed this shift. And I'm like, okay, I'm finally understanding why I had all these incidents over and over again, or I had to fight back, fight back, fight back, fight back. It was the universe wanted me to switch the way I was doing it. And now that like that's kind of crystallized, it's giving me in an even more expanded way to come at the idea of authority and being in your power and speaking up and you know being that formidable person. So it's been really, really, really interesting. But I feel
I
more relaxed, ironically. I don't feel the tension that I did before.
so
Because
how did
you're never gonna put me in a situation where I won't fight my way out. Like that was a given. But I was like, why do these fights keep coming up? Universe, I'm trying to do other things. Thank you very much. Like I don't need to take more legal action right now. Like,
why do
and
you think they work like so I'd like to dial in exactly like what shifted, what does it sound like kind of in your monologue when you went from kind of fighting back to feeling that you're, I don't know, I feel like a radiant authority or just like able to put out space.
I'm still trying to actually find the words, even for
Right.
myself, because it's still so fresh. But it almost feels more like based on my own childhood beliefs of like being the scapegoat and having to fight to be heard. I
Ah,
feel like my higher self's like, let's retire the fight. You deserve to be heard. You don't have to fight for it anymore. Like that's kind of what it feels like.
yeah, yeah, I see.
And so now it's like, no, just be that thing. Don't come in like ready
So
to.
so it's something here like be the thing, show up and like radiate as opposed to creating the thing to resist because like right. And then someone takes the role of what you're resisting because that's the familiar. I'm used to this. This is what it's always going to feel like. And the universe, like, and you done that.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so you're reintegrating, which is always really weird because you don't realize how much like thoughts or personality aspects may have kind of come out of. So it's like a real undoing then. That's weird.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely. And that's why it was like it just started to crystallize over the last like in subtle situations. Like even just dropping off my vehicle at the airport. Like I rented a vehicle when I was in Florida last time, and so I was there a couple weeks ago. And I never care about what kind of car I get. It's just transportation. I'm like, what is it runs? I don't care, whatever. And I went with six rent a car first time, and they were
Oh, I
like,
like
yeah, I like them a lot. They were like, your car actually isn't working that well, so we're just gonna give you the brand new 2025 BMW. Okay,
art.
thanks,
Thanks.
thanks. And it was interesting because again, I'm so used to feeling like the adversary. I'm just so used to feeling like that person. When I went to drop off the vehicle and the guy came up to me and said, like literally just from a distance, like he just knew the car, so he knew who it was. And he said, hello, Miss Worthen, how was your week? And there was something about that interaction. I'm like, he doesn't hate me. He doesn't resent doing his job for me. There was something in that hit me differently. And I was like, I don't have to fight to just exist. Because that's been a part of my own framework that I've been working on since I was a child. It's just this fight to exist. And I don't know, it just shifted. And I was like, wait a minute. I think this is part of what I'm trying to undo and integrate right now. And like he was welcoming me. And granted, he's just doing his job, but there was something about the way he showed up to greet me that just felt different. And I was like, why do I expect to be like have an antagonistic interaction everywhere? Like why? I, I don't have to fight for everything. Why do I feel like I have to fight for everything? I need to retire that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Well,
get that it's a natural progression, especially if you're breaking up with an old like it's like people who like leave bad relationships are on the defense, but we don't want to get stuck there.
yeah. And if you and my husband and I talk about this a lot. We've been through like what happened in COVID, what happened to my career, what happened to like start feeling like a refugee with it something you're always like, who's gonna kick me next? And it's
Yeah,
like, and that's not, and it's interesting because we're also kind of coming out of that space. I mean, I lost my whole career during COVID, started a
me
new
too.
one. Yeah. And you're just like, but and then all the attacks, you get kind of this like ongoing PTSD almost where you expect it. And then you go, like we're house hunting right now. So we're going to get a place with a pool for the summer and blah, blah, blah. And it's interesting because we expect a traumatic or an adversarial thing. And when it doesn't happen, you're like, oh, I remember how life was before. people became, because I feel like a lot of the world got kind of polluted to a point where that's just how they exchanged information, was always by trying to find what's wrong with the other person. Like I can look at you and in my eyes, I can find what's wrong with you, or I can find what's right. And one makes you glow and grow and feel safe and good. The other one makes you defensive. And as a culture, I feel like we've been a bit infected with the other pattern of like, who's the bigger criminal? Well, look, it's a planet of criminals.
Yeah.
You're playing the game of someone's a bigger criminal than me. And but it's on a subtle level. You go to get the coffee and and I really hope that it's not just personal, that maybe the society is changing a bit, because being adversarial to everybody is awful. But if you've had that from your childhood, oftentimes we actually hold a charge in
Oh,
us
yeah.
because yeah, and we don't even, we just think that that's how life is, and we're holding that. And so if you found a way to dissolve that charge, and then that whole shell falls off, it's like being reborn.
No, absolutely. And I definitely, again, as a child being the scapegoat, you just get used to being the bad guy. And a lot of my work and personality and tenacity was built on that, right? I
So
think,
who are you after?
right. And it's like, and I see people who have like, they walk around with these high expectations, but it's projection. It's not the same thing as relaxing into your essence and coming from a space of like, I deserve to just be here, and I was always very like, oh, I don't like the way they come off. And so I was always very avoidant of integrating that projection because it was so off-putting. Like, what makes you think you're so superior, so much better, that you deserve whatever? I don't like being around that. And I didn't want to become that. And so, like, I didn't know how to integrate the two until life just kind of forced me to just like find that middle ground. And that's always what I'm looking for, is the middle ground. It's like, can we get out of the binary? You know what I mean? The duality. There's got to be a way to integrate this that is more holistic. And so to have this kind of be pushed on me in a way, I guess it was like, okay, and it makes sense, but it's about, again, relating to myself differently. And I don't know, it's just weird.
Word,
Like,
the word that keeps coming up is grace, like the out
mhm.
of the binary into the grace of it, where you're not avoiding conflict, but you're not also creating it. But also if it happens, you're able to even have a grace or a thing about it. I keep getting, like, as you're describing this, the word is grace. It's grace. It's like this feeling, okay, I can have a graceful interaction at the car drop off. And those little moments, and that to me is really the fruit of spiritual practice, is when grace shows up after a long time absent, when we're kind of in the mud of something and we finally kind of finish a pattern. And then you're like, it's almost, I always think like you're waking up from a fever or a bad dream, and grace comes in. You're like, oh wait, that pattern is gone, and only the remnants remain, only these little. But then the integrating part is, who am I if I'm not fighting? Like, because I'm strong and I know how to power through, and we have a lot in common. So I hear my own journey in your
Yeah.
work.
And I have been wanting to put this to rest. I remember back in 21 being like, what is this fight? Because it became just over and over again. And the irony is, I'd always prevail. It wasn't like the universe was like, stop fighting, you're not meant to, because I'd always prevail. I'd always win. Every time I went to court, every time I did a chargeback, every time someone did me wrong, I would always get my way. So I was like, what is the lesson though? It keeps happening.
Yeah.
I couldn't figure out the lesson. And then it finally just crystallized. And it's interesting because, like, some of these things I'm still sorting out, obviously, they're ongoing. And I had hired this company to help me. I spent 24 grand and they did nothing for me. And I'm only charging back half of it, And then Barclays actually discovers that they overcharged me by $4,000. But like, it's been ongoing for months. And then, like, one of the disputes, they didn't side with me. And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. No, no. Chat GPT of all things was like, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, file on Barclays. Literally, because when you're a high-end institution like that, they're already automatically in the system with these bureaus. They hate these bureaus, I found out. And so within less than 24 hours, I get a call from the president of Barclays office saying, "We are so sorry you're dealing this. We will fix it as soon as possible." And I was like, "Yeah, you will." But I
So
was like,
we have the same thing, the battle. Like so, like I had a business partner that just stole and lied, and I'm just like, and I'm great to work with, not to toot my own horn, but I'm really nice to work with. And I'm just like, why does this energy where you now have to deal with it? Like what in me? And I came to some heavy realizations of what the feeling is before it manifests, and to just, you know, really it's a vibrational world, because I don't want that in my life. I want to create and have good long-term relationships with those that I work with. And I'm willing to suffer a lot to kind of get that result and to endure a lot. And that could be the problem.
well, again, yeah. I mean, so now it's really, I still feel like I need to do some reparenting on just the messaging. Like I got you. You don't have to fight anymore. You don't have to
Yeah.
live on defense anymore. Like there's some reparenting I still want to do around the issue because again, I'm getting my way. So it's not like I'm not meant to prevail, but
Not a good
it's
experience.
how.
Yeah.
It's how. It's the how. So, and I'm refining that work right now. And it's really nice because I don't want to be combative. I'm good at it, guaranteed, but I think it's run its course. Like,
I just want to be the happy Buddha having some snacks for a bit instead of warrior Buddha. Can we
yeah,
just,
like,
I can do this, but universe,
can we
okay,
put that part of my personality on a shelf for a while? Trust me, she is ready to go at the drop of a hat. But
ready.
yeah, so anyway, definitely still tying up loose ends. But like even I even reached out to an attorney in California over some copyright stuff. So someone had stolen my content and decided to repurpose it and actually frame me differently. And I was like, huh, okay. And he's a civil rights attorney and he was a former client. And he was like, we'll do it. I'll do it on contingency. I'd love to go up against YouTube. So we're going to discuss that. But I feel like now I feel like I'm operating from a different place and I'd kind of forgotten that he had offered. And then I saw another woman on TikTok who similar situation. And I was like, no, I need to revisit this. Like we need to change the publishing laws. So
Oh,
yeah. Um,
you're having a lot of your content ripped off.
it's actually it's men who are bitter, who are trying to frame older women as useless and rejected. So it has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. They'll take stuff from of me and try to make it look like I'm a has-been who nobody wants. And I'm like, okay, but
Wow, that's a thing
yeah,
people do?
yeah. So it's been I'm like we need to pursue him personally and then also go after YouTube and just, you know, but now that I've been through, because this has been an ongoing discussion for about 7 months. So now I'm feeling like, yeah, now we need to do it, but I'm operating from a different place when we do it.
The
And
one party. And also it's like I always think of it like cleaning up the room for the other people too, because not everyone has your ability to stand.
no, absolutely. And that's the thing, like he said, he goes, when you're trying to, like when you have a case that like the law does not support your case, he goes, you don't challenge it within the parameters of the law. You argue that the law is wrong. So there's a different way to go about it. And this is happening to so many people. Like because he said that the digital world is not, it's going so fast that the
Wild,
publishing
Wild West.
crap.
It's like Wild West.
Yeah. And so he's like, it's definitely something worth addressing. And he goes, I would love to go up against YouTube. Like that would be fun for me. So I'm like, okay, well let's do it then. So
And then you're gonna do it like the Zen happy Buddha. Come
well,
with
it's a different energy when you show up and you just are, as opposed to like with your gun, right? It's just a different energy. And so I'm excited to embrace and embody this more viscerally so that becomes what I'm putting out as opposed to where I've been.
Yeah.
because 10 times more powerful. Not to say that where I've been didn't get shit done, but like this is where I've been wanting to reside.
The internal resonance.
Hmm. Yeah. So it's, but what's funny is it's like if you thought I was scary before, ooh, wow, this new woman, she doesn't even combat now.
Solid power. Don't make me unleash it.
Yeah. And the other thing that has shifted as a result of getting that paradigm is not that I was afraid before, but it was like, ugh, oh, the bank is emailing me. What are they going to say? Like there was that. And
Oh, the resistance. Yeah,
now it's like,
resisting.
oh, where are we at now? Like it's more of a lean in versus a,
Yeah.
you know?
You have to make it fun. Like whenever I have to do a lot of admin work and I really do change my inner atmosphere consciously. So especially like I have to write a lot of companies, buying stuff for the business. And I put that in there and sometimes I have to fight with them over packaging, but I don't want like I want to resolve it and there's gonna have to be force applied, but not having my own system get stressed out or angry, that's like really the regulation, like showing up very solidly within all the mundane little travesties that we have to fix in our lives.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, I mean, I think I'm operating from an even better space, especially to help women. So, because we don't always know our own blind spots until they become major
How would
obstacles
you?
in our lives.
How would you? It's why you need teachers, guides, really good friends that you can say, hey, what am I missing? Because you don't know what you don't know. And if you can't see it, you need some sort of mirror or feedback.
Well, and maybe you feel the same way, and we can tie things up on this note, but I feel like people often perceive me as being, because I am so good at seeing things, I think people often assume that means that I'm being judgmental or I'm putting them down in my brain or something. It's not the case at all, especially with the work that I've done on myself. I don't care. It's your life, right? My insight is here to help you. Whether you use it or not, or change or not, that's completely on you. I'm not invested, right? So, like, again, I don't need to control the people in my life because you're not a reflection of me. I'm a reflection of me, right? And so, like, I don't, even though I have a very formidable presence, it's nothing but love that I have to give.
Yeah.
You know what I
You're
mean?
you're super intense, which I like because I like intense people. I'm also super intense and I've had to work hard to not be intimidating or to make because when I look, it's with like an intensity that sees everything and people can feel very naked. And so one of the things that I do, like if someone comes and it's my job to look, I don't want them to feel too examined. And I do this inner practice. The best way to describe it is like a wave, not a wave, like a constant beam of admiration. So I bathe them in like this feeling of admiration, not like I like her hair, I like her shoes. Like that's a lower grade. I mean, like a radiant sun. And when I do that at the same time as I'm looking, they don't get as scared of me because it is a thing. And especially when people know that you can see what's going on, it's very intense and it makes them squirmy and not know how to be. So I do my best to like, you know, be more gentle in that. But it's one of the things I liked immediately. I'm like, oh yeah, she's intense. I like this. She's on. I enjoy that in people because, 'cause I think it's fun, but it can be. Yeah, and I know I've struggled many times by being very intense with people and the feeling of them being seen can be
Well,
a
and understanding, it took me a long time to understand that they weren't rejecting me, they were rejecting their own image because it was so blatant in their face.
yes.
But like I can't help someone unless I see them properly. And so it's imperative that like they're vulnerable and authentic with me so we can get to those core parts, you know what I mean? And it's not, I'm not looking, there is nothing that I have seen another client that I'm like, oh yeah, you're worse than me. No, like there's none of that. It's not like I have yet to meet anyone who is worse to deal with than myself. Like I am the ultimate, like I'm a difficult client. Like trust me, like I've yet to meet anyone who is as difficult as I am. So it's definitely not that. Like there's a lot of like, no, please go be meaner, be harsher, be more intense. Like I need to read the energy so we can see where the pattern lies. Like I have to do that. Don't be afraid. Don't hold back.
Yep, I'm not
So,
afraid.
yeah. I need your demons to come out so we can
Yeah,
figure
where
out
are they? Yeah, I
like
want to all the rats out of the cellar,
I
honey.
need them to come out, come to the front so we can figure out how to heal this. Let's
And
this
that
it's and when I
that's
have clients who are like, "Oh no," and I'm just like, "You're lying to me. Stop lying to me. I can't help you if you're just putting on the show. Like I actually need, and it can take months
it.
sometimes."
Yeah, you have to bring the monsters out. No, it's super true, but you have to realize you have a gift for enduring monsters, my dear, and most people cannot. So it's a rarity. If you have the dragon vibes, oh, you're a monster. Okay, cool. How many more? You got some other ones with you? It's a rarity and it is intense. And and it's a gift because most people don't have that. They can sit in someone's monster mash, the monster mash, and be like, okay, this is what we got. All right, not a problem.
I have to thank Diana Steibel for that. She does theta healing. She brought it to humanity, and she was just so exceptional at that. And I just remember I was like 21 when I started working with her, and I was like, that's powerful.
I don't know what that is. Would you email me some? Yeah, email. Is it something? Yeah, yeah, send me. I don't know everything yet, my dear. Not yet.
Yeah, theta healing it was incredible. And I just remember this woman, like being so afraid of my own shit when I started, and I remember I couldn't see. We were learning how to read each other. And I went up to her on a break at the seminar and I said, I can't see anything. She looked right through me in a way I could feel. I was like, oh, and then I could feel her just sharply look through my energy. And she goes, oh, well, you were killed in a past life for doing this. Let's clear that.
There's a
but
reason to have a block, baby.
but yeah, just anytime I interacted with her, she'd be like, no, 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 keep, because I'd be like, I'm sorry. And she's like, no, 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 keep going, keep going. I'm trying to get to the core. Keep going. So I just remember like learning from her, like how important that was to like let people really be in their stuff so you could help them.
Yeah, if you can't let them be in their stuff, you can't help them.
Exactly. So it was a great conversation today, Ray.
It's
I
been
really liked it.
amazing. It's such a pleasure speaking with you. It's nice to have a another soul who's walked like a similar path with a similar intensity.
Mhm.
This has been a real
Definitely.
pleasure. And hopefully for those of you watching, you got some good information and you know it can be super intense out there and really to trust your intuition. It's wise.
That's you. Like that's you.
Yep,
So
be in your knowing. Be in your knowing and trust it when you know. Even especially if it's unreasonable.
yeah, don't betray yourself anymore. Not worth it.
Nope.
So
Well, my dear, this has been such a pleasure.
absolutely. And I'm sure we'll be back again having another good discussion.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.